The world's temperatures are getting dangerously extreme. Mary Robinson wants the world to take extreme action. It's great to see you, Mary.
Great to see you.
How bad is it?
It is worrying because this year we need leadership in order for the world to change course. We're not on course for a safe world. The governments of the world, based on scientific knowledge, agreed at a conference a couple of years ago that we needed to stay below 2 degrees Celsius of warming. And that's now accepted by every country, but we're not on course. And we're on course for a 4-degree world maybe. And the World Bank brought out a report a couple of years ago called Turn Down the Heat, about what a 4-degree world would look like.
What does it look like?
Catastrophic. Absolutely
just
catastrophic.
paint that picture, because people, you know,
Yeah.
when we hear about climate change, it's there, it's important, but viscerally, what does it mean?
It
in
is
reality?
really, this is an existential threat. It's the most important and most serious human rights issue in the world today, and I'm saying that as a former High Commissioner for Human Rights. We have to change course, and this is the year we will have the Sustainable Development Goals adopted in July for all countries, because no country is actually living sustainably with our world at the moment.
What does changing course mean?
It means that in December at the climate agreement, we have to have a legal binding agreement which commits us to a pathway to stay below 2 degrees Celsius. And we're aware that it means that everybody will have to be more ambitious than they are now. Countries are they're letting the world know their contributions as part of the process. So there's a whole band of the contributions that countries will make from 2020 on to cut emissions and to adapt, etc.
Who are the biggest offenders?
The biggest is China, but China's doing an awful lot to get on course. And it was very good that China and the United States had a joint communique late last year. And it's good that President Obama and Secretary of State Kerry are really leading on this issue. So in a way, what we have to realize is the industrialized world built their development on fossil fuels. That has to stop now. About 2/3 of the fossil fuels that are known cannot be used, have to stay in the ground. And yet we have oil and gas companies going to the Arctic and places to look for. It's ridiculous. And so that's important. We have to remove the subsidies for fossil fuels and research and build up the renewable energy. Renewable energy is getting much cheaper. Wind is much cheaper, but solar in particular has huge potential, particularly with solar battery.
What about people that want to take action and they don't quite know what to do, and they're watching you from around the world, and they want to do something tomorrow? What is it that they should do?
Well, this year it's a case of mobilizing your governments. Let your government know, both before September, indeed before July, the Financing for Development Conference takes place, but before September, that these Sustainable Development Goals are important. There's a goal on climate change, Goal 13, and they're the first part. But in particular, that we want an ambitious, binding climate agreement that does actually keep us on course. I'm an Irish grandmother. I have 5 grandchildren, and they'll be in their 40s.
You don't look like a
in fact, the youngest will only be 35 in 2050. They'll share the world with 9 billion other people, and I care about that whole 9 billion, not just my grandchildren. What kind of world will they have if we don't change course now? We're the first generation to understand the dangers of climate change, and the last generation with time to do something about it. Time is running out.
You are a former president of Ireland, a woman that's been a role model for so many people around the world. There's another woman running for president in the United States. What advice would you have for Hillary Clinton?
Well, I don't think she will need my advice, but
you won.
I think it's important that women do run for the highest office, because we need that good balance in our world. Women have a good way of leading, which is different in large part from the way men lead. I've realized that in climate we have a troika of women leaders on climate change, which is women ministers of environment and energy, heads of agencies of the UN, etc., in order to link with the women in communities who actually know the problem and know the solutions and get their voices out. And it's a kind of two-way listening leadership. I don't think men would do it the same way. And similarly, as a head of state of an important country like the United States, it would be great to have a woman and have a woman's leadership linking with other women in the world.
What do you think is the one question that every woman should ask herself?
I suppose even when I was President of Ireland, I was still a mother of 3 children, and that was extremely important to me, as I told them, that they were a very essential part. I think we have to combine that sense of being the mother, the grandmother, the heart of the family, but also being able to take part in wider society and take our responsibility and take our leadership potential. And there are wonderful women. I was talking just the other day to Graça Machel, who's going to foster women's leadership in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a
Right.
wonderful way of saying we need to actually prepare for the next generation to be able to take that responsibility.
What is the biggest issue facing women in the world today, according to you?
Well, you see, I have to come back to climate change because there are women who are finding it very hard now to put food on the table, because a lot of the farmers are women and they don't know when to sow because they have erratic climate they've never had before. The rainy seasons don't come, long periods of drought. And it's an issue that is getting worse, but it will get to a tipping point and then could get irreversibly, catastrophically worse. And we all want to protect our children and grandchildren.
Yeah.
I think for women, and that's why I was glad to be able to talk about it this morning in that wide audience of women in the world. This is a women's issue, and it's a women's leadership issue, and it's a women in the community issue, and it's a young women's issue because her children will be like my grandchildren and their grandchildren. We have to have a safe world.
And finally, what is the best advice you've ever received?
I think the best thing for me was when I was growing up in Ireland, wedged between 4 brothers. Hence my early interest in human rights and equality and all that. But my parents always said to me, you have as much right to be whatever you want to be as they do. And that was very unusual in the Ireland of that time. My parents were both doctors. And somehow that gave me an inner confidence that is really important. What I often say to young women is be more confident, believe in yourself. And I was lucky. I had parents who really gave me that sense of self-belief early on. And then I went to Harvard, and I got what my husband called Harvard Law School arrogance, and stood for the Senate in Ireland at the age of 25 and so on. But I do like women to interrupt, to all the attributes that we see are good in young boys, like being assertive and things. We don't necessarily see them as being good in girls.
Right.
We have to change all of that. And you can be very feminine and womanly and all the rest of it, but you can also be firm and assertive and clear and principled and have integrity.
Mary Robinson, it's always a pleasure, and you're always a star. Thank you.
Thank you. Great to see you.
You too.
Okay.
You too.